In this video, I'm going to talk about top things to do in Nashville. Nashville is the capital city of Tennessee, famously known as Music City. It is a vibrant global hub for country music. By the early 20th century, Nashville solidified its reputation as a music hub, especially with the establishment of the Grand Ole Opry in 1925. I first visited Nashville in 2016, and the city has grown so much since then. I took these photos at the same traffic light. Saying it's changed a lot would be an understatement. The most famous architecture in Nashville is perhaps the Parthenon. Yes. It's a full-scale replica of the Parthenon in Athens. Nashville is known as the Athens of the South because of its dedication to higher education and its connection to Greek classical architecture. The Parthenon is located in Centennial Park, and while you're here, you can check out the Taylor Swift bench. The city of Nashville dedicated a Centennial Park bench to Taylor Swift, ahead of the city's Eras tour in 2023. The plaque is a reference to her song Invisible String. Green was the color of the grass where I used to read at Centennial Park.
Green was the color of the grass where I used to read at Centennial Park.
Let's head downtown and soak in the charm of Music City. Downtown area is very walkable, so we're making a few stops. The visitor center is at Bridgestone Arena, home to the NHL's Nashville Predators. This place can be a starting point to kick off your tour of the area. A nice little souvenir shop with a fun photo op to pretend you're a performer. The Ryman Auditorium is one of Nashville's most iconic landmarks, often called the Mother Church of country music. Why is it called Mother Church? Well, before it became a music mecca, it had a very different beginning. It was originally built by a wealthy riverboat captain Thomas Ryman as a church-like gathering place in 1892. It was later renamed the Ryman Auditorium after Ryman's passing 12 years later. In 1943, it became the home of the Grand Ole Opry, launching the careers of countless country legends, including Hank Williams, Patsy Cline, and Johnny Cash. The Opry moved in 1974, but the Ryman made a comeback and is now a must-visit venue for music lovers of all genres. Small park with Hollywood-style Walk of Fame for country music. I skipped it this time since I've been before, but it's definitely worth a visit if you haven't. It's one of the world's largest museums dedicated to country music, with extensive historical artifacts and musical collections. Broadway is the iconic street lined with honky-tonk bars offering live music, a must-visit. Almost every restaurant and bar has live music performance. One of the bigger ones is Ole Red, owned by country music star Blake Shelton. The first location opened in Tishomingo, Oklahoma, Shelton's hometown, and has since expanded to Nashville.
Well, good to hear from you, old biscuit. Good to hear from you, old buddy, old pal. You're talking. Ryan Harpin on the guitar.
Used to be hub of the city's printing industry, Printers Alley is now a vibrant nightlife street. If you're interested in Tennessee's history, there are a few places you can visit. Bicentennial Capitol Mall State Park is a free park tells the story of the state's history through plaques, plants and fountains. Park was built in 1996 to celebrate 200 years of statehood. The unique thing about this memorial is this 18,000-pound granite globe, floating on a thin layer of water. Globe shows distances that Tennesseans traveled to defend our country during World War II. Time capsule to open in 2045. Bicentennial Carillon, Nashville is known as the Music City, and it truly lives up to the name. The Carillon has a set of bells that plays music every 15 minutes. The State Museum is next to the park, with free entry and free parking. It tells the state's history and culture, through a Tennessee time tunnel.
Oh, I did not make that. This is a real wagon. Now, it comes from a little bit later time period. It comes from the 1800s, which is a little bit after the time period we're talking about, but it is a real wagon that I used.
Tennesseans enlisted in the War of 1812 in overwhelming numbers, earning the state its nickname, the Volunteer State.
Almost 3,000 engagements took place in the state during the war.
W.C. Handy and other African American musicians made the city the capital of the Delta Blues. In East Tennessee, recording sessions in Bristol sparked the rise of what would become country music. And in Nashville, the Grand Ole Opry was first sent out over the airwaves in 1925. Thanks to inventions like the radio, people were being exposed to new sounds.
At the end of World War I, Tennessee farmers faced a crisis.
Did you know a town in Tennessee is a site for the Manhattan Project? Los Alamos in New Mexico is where the bombs were designed and built under the direction of Oppenheimer. Oak Ridge in Tennessee focused on enriching uranium for the atomic bombs. Hanford in Washington was responsible for producing plutonium.
rich musical traditions emerged from the confluence of Native American, European, and African cultures. These complex musical layers evolved together over time, reaching new people by way of riverboat and railroad. In 1925, a radio station in Nashville began broadcasting the WSM Barn Dance, a show which, 2 years later, evolved into the Grand Ole Opry. That same year, a record producer and recording engineer for Victor Records named Ralph Peer came to Bristol, Tennessee in search of traditional sounds. In Memphis, musicians gathered on Beale Street, where clubs and restaurants provided venues for some of the biggest names in blues. The young singers' blending of different genres of Southern music would prove irresistible to American audiences.
Next up is the Tennessee State Capitol. Completed in 1859, the Capitol is one of the oldest working statehouses in the country. It's a Greek Revival architecture designed by renowned architect William Strickland. Free guided tour on the hour, a great way to learn about Tennessee history, important people and state capitol history.
Last one added under President George Washington. So it was the 13 colonies, Vermont, Kentucky, and us. Very early on we became a state. Now at that point, Tennessee does not have a permanent capital. For about 50 years, we have a rotating or moving capital. So cities like Knoxville, Nashville, and Murfreesboro all serve as capital, as does a teensy tiny town in East Tennessee called Kingston. And they were all president. These are our 3 presidents from Tennessee. So who is this guy? Andrew Jackson. So you probably recognize him from the $20 bill. He is our 7th president. He really grows to fame through his role in the War of 1812 and the Battle of New Orleans. He is a war hero in his own time. And he is probably best known for, though, the Indian Removal Act. He signs the act that leads to the forcible removal of Native Americans from the southeast to Oklahoma on the Trail of Tears. The Cherokee are going to be the most affected here in Tennessee. They lose about 4,000 people, or about a quarter of their population on the trail. He's a controversial guy, both back in his day because of the Indian Removal Act and today. Polk, he is our 11th president. He is president during the Mexican-American War. And that is when we get our nickname of the volunteer state. So he calls for volunteers. Tennessee sends way more than anyone expected, and we get our nickname. Now, in addition to that, getting the nickname during the war, we also get quite a bit of land. He also signs a few treaties with Great Britain, and all in all, we get about 1/3 of our country under James K. Polk. So quite a bit of land. He is a one-term president by choice. He said that if he completed his campaign goals in his first term, he wouldn't run again. So he doesn't. So he leaves office at the age of about 53, ready for a nice retirement at a young age. He dies 3 months later. So they bury him at his home Polk Place here in Nashville. 42 years go by, his wife lives at Polk Place, he's buried there, and then his wife Sarah dies. And at that point, Polk Place is no longer owned by the Polk family. So they move his grave and his wife Sarah's grave out here to our east garden, rather than leave them on an unclaimed piece of land. So we are up to 4 bodies. Lincoln is murdered, Johnson becomes president. So easiest way to remember it, after the 2 big assassinations, Lincoln and Kennedy, you're gonna get Johnson. Easiest way to remember that. So Johnson is a Southern Democrat running with a Republican. Can we even picture that today? No. It was weird back then too, because he was a Southern Democrat who supported the Union during the Civil War. It's one of the reasons Lincoln picked him for his second vice president. He wanted to bring the South back into the fold. He is wildly unpopular. People just don't like him, professionally or personally. And they actually drill into all of the pillars. So there's holes all over the pillars. Not great when it comes to historic preservation in this capital. So we've got the three presidents up top who we already talked about. We got Polk, Jackson, and Johnson. Does anybody recognize anybody else? This chamber. This is the largest chamber in the building, and that is because we have 99 state representatives. The split at the last session was 75 Republican to 24 Democrat. We have 33 state senators. At the last session, the split was 27 Republican to 6 Democrat. So again, we're in a really red state.
It was a very informative tour, and we also learned other aspects of the state. For example, Tennessee's state flag represents 3 divisions: the state. East Tennessee, a mountainous region, relied less on slave labor, were on Union side during the Civil War. West Tennessee area around Memphis, largely flat and relied heavily on slave labor, was on Confederate side during the Civil War. Middle area surrounding Nashville was a mix of both.